In mean streets of Meer were cosmic beings coming to this once bustling metropolis of Meer. It's a near future timeline. There's been a lot of catastrophe in the world. Sort of post-apocalyptic, and weird things have happened. The creator has fallen away from the world. The Dark One has also mysteriously vanished. And in that void, cosmic beings are being drawn to our planet in a mirrored dimension of Earth. You are one of these cosmic beings being drawn to the planet. There's some sort of power there that's compelling you to come and investigate it. The only problem is it's compelling all the other cosmic beings in the world as well, and that's who your opponents are. So you're all vying for control of this city. It's a big city. It's divided into various boroughs, much like New York, but much bigger. And it's a city in ruin, a city in chaos. Anarchy rules the streets. Gangs run rampant. You, as a cosmic being, have learned to harness the power to control these gangs. And that is what you'll use to take on your opponents, one borough at a time, in order to reach the epicenter of the city and discover the mysterious power that draws you forth. Hey everybody, VP here, and today I'm going to jump into Tabletop Simulator and do a quick how to play video on the mean streets of Meer. This is the game that I have been building and working on, the card and dice game that I've been working on, and I'd like to try to share with you how to play. So the first thing you'll find in Tabletop Simulator is these quick rules cards here. There are 3 of these. Each player will have 3 quick rules cards, and I am just going to go straight down this list and show you how to play the game as we go. So for setup, each player should have, let's see if I can magnify this a little bit. Let's do this. There we go. That's too much. We'll just go with this. Setup. Each player should have a deck of 30 cards, either ones they built themselves or one of the pre-made decks included. So for this demonstration of the game, we are going to use the pre-made decks. So I have 30 over here, and my opponent has 30 over here. We'll just do a 2-player sample game here so you get an idea of how the game works. So there we go. We both have a deck of 30 cards. What's the next setup step? Shuffle your deck and place it face down in front of you. Okay, well, it's already here. I'm going to shuffle it again. In Tabletop Simulator, you can kind of see over here all the little useful shortcuts that you can use in the game. So R is shuffle. You just kind of hover over your deck and hit R and you shuffle the deck. I'll go over here and shuffle their deck as well. Boom, boom. There. Give it a quick little shuffle. All right, step 3. Place the player mat to the right of your draw pile so that the space labeled Streets of Meer is on the right of your draw pile. And then you can check out the table setup card. If you're confused by that description, this shows you in Tabletop Simulator how a 4-player setup should be set up. And it's basically the same for a 2 to 3-player game, just that there'll be less fronts out there. So when you play a game, you lay out 2 fronts per player. So in this case, there's 2 players, so we're going to have 4 fronts in the game. But let's check what that said about placing the player mat to the right of our draw pile so that the space labeled Streets of Meer is on the right of our draw pile. So up here, as you can see, here's the deck. Here's the space on the player mat labeled the Streets of Meer. This is where all your discarded cards will go face down. And then as you lose cards, they will get moved to the dead cards will go here face up to the morgue. So we got that set up, and mine, of course, is set up exactly the same way down here as well. What's next? Place 1 green cube on the top left of your player mat labeled 00. This is your reputation track. So as you earn reputation, you're going to move your cubes up the track. And then the first player to score 40 reputation will trigger the end-game trigger mechanism, basically. And I'll get into that as we get a little bit farther along in this how to play video. But this is the track here. This is the green cube. So as you do things, you'll just kind of move it up. And if somebody is fortunate enough to get to 40, that will trigger the end game. So, okay, we're good with that. Oh, and then we have the green cube on the 0-0 space. And then directly to the left of the reputation track is all the ways that you can earn reputation. So back on the player mat, here's the reputation track right here. And then right here on the left, let's zoom this up. You can see in the top left corner that it says earning your rep. If you seize a front or enemy upgrade, you will gain rep equal to the target's control. And we'll go into that here in a little bit. Another way to earn rep is to destroy a front or enemy upgrade or downgrade. And if you do that, you'll get reputation equal to the front's health, which is a little bit lower than the control of the front. But it's also a little easier to destroy a front than to actually try to seize a front. And then the third way here to earn your reputation is to be in control of a front during the reputation phase. Now this is the mechanism of the game that kind of drives the whole game. Controlling fronts to control the borough of the city that you're trying to control, that you're battling over. So if you're in control of a front during the reputation phase, you will gain the front's reputation score. And again, we'll go over these shortly. Basically, a player is considered in control of a front if they have the most goons at the front. So you have to have more goons at the front than the enemy. If you do that, you are considered in control. And that's a phrase that will come up quite a bit in these instructions. And then here we are at the fourth way to earn your reputation. Whenever another player has to shuffle their discard pile, everybody gains 5 reputation. So whenever anybody has to shuffle their discard pile, you gain 5 reputation. That shouldn't happen a whole lot, but you know when it does, you'll get 5 reputation for it. And then finally, if you kill an enemy goon, you get 2 reputation. So there you go. Those are the ways you can earn your rep. Going back to our quick rule setup, we are now on the bottom step of this first card. So below the reputation track is the phases of play. This is the order in which you will do things on your second turn and beyond. This is also found on the table setup card. If we flip it over, here you go, all the phases of play. So after the first round, so on your second round and beyond, you'll take phases of your turns in this order. You'll do all of your phases, and then another player will then do their phases. So that's what the phases of play is. Now if we flip this card over, we got side 2 of 6, and on side 2 of 6, the quick rules continue. To the right of the phases of play on your player mat is the goon status box. This is where you will keep track of all the statuses your goons might acquire during play. So that is right here. This big old section here is your goon status. This will go up and down based on a few different things. Usually it's done by fronts, mainly by fronts. And you won't always have bonuses, so that's what the +5 is here. And you won't always have negatives, which is that way. So if it's right here in the middle, that is just kind of neutral. But depending on the fronts we pull in the beginning of the game, this may go up or down accordingly. Alright, but for now, place 1 green cube on each of the 6 stat names. Yep, we did that. Don't have any bonuses or negatives to begin with. That's why it's just the cube is set on the name. Now, the bottom portion of your player mat, labeled the Streets of Meer, is where your discarded cards will go. I already kind of mentioned that. And then, yeah, if you ever run out of cards in your draw pile, you will shuffle all the cards together to form a new draw pile, and everyone else will get that +5 reputation that we talked about in earning your reputation. The final spot on your player mat, labeled the Morgue, is where killed / destroyed or spent cards will go, and they will go face up on this space. So your discard pile goes face down right here, and you would turn your card like this, sort of like this, boom, just like that when you discard it. All right, and then your morgue goes face up when things die or you spend a card. Now that your player mat is set up, shuffle a standard deck of fronts and flip up 2 fronts per player, side by side from left to right across the middle of the table. Now these fronts represent the businesses available in this borough of the city, aka your battleground. All right, we are ready to set up our city. The first thing we have to do is flip up 2 fronts per players. Now you'll notice there are 2 decks of fronts here. There's the A through Z deck, which is this one right here, and then there's the standard deck here. So you see that the backs of these cards are different. They're the same decks basically. It's just one card is alphabetized, which you'll have to do yourself when you receive it. Thankfully, in Tabletop Simulator, I have managed to alphabetize them already, and I just hope that I don't shuffle those. And then these are your standard decks. Why do we do that? Well, here's why. Let's go ahead and start it up. So we need to flip up 2 fronts per player. So there's 2 players in this game, so that would be 4 fronts total. So we just take the top front of the deck, flip it up, Hands Holistic Healing. We'll take up the next one, Goon Memorial, and we just lay them side by side like this. Baker Street Rec Center, and finally our 4th front, boom, Zibbler Casino and Resort. Okay, so those are going to be our 4 fronts of the game. They all got drawn from the standard deck, which is right here. Now with this deck, this is basically for when you're playing with other players. If somebody's sitting across from you, I don't know about you, but I hate having to try to read upside down. So this is my way around that. Now we just have to find all these fronts and copy them, mirror them basically, and flip them the other way. Now this doesn't mean that there's more fronts here. This is just how you do it, so that somebody doesn't have to read backwards. So I'm going to do that really quick, and then once I get them all set up, I will get back with you. All right, we are all set up here. So as you can see, we got our standard fronts down here and our alphabetized fronts facing the other direction, orienting toward the player on the other side. These are the same fronts, same abilities. It just helps with being able to see what the abilities are, and like I said, you don't have to read upside down. It's optional. You don't have to set it up like this, but I just find that it is a good way. It also accomplishes something else that we'll see later as well. But anyways, we got our fronts laid out here. What's the next part of our setup? So let's go back to our setup card here. Quick rules. 3 of 6. Do not shuffle the alphabetized deck. Obviously, you don't want to unalphabetize your alphabetized deck. Once the standard fronts are laid out, look through the alphabetized deck of fronts and match them up to the fronts that were just laid out. That's what I just did. And now we take a moment to review the fronts and their abilities. So at this point, I'm going to show you what a front card looks like. So here we are, right here. Hands Holistic Healing. This is the name of the front right here. This is the number in the series, the entire series of cards for the first edition of the game. And if we look at the card here, we'll go through the little stats here. So this little number in the shield, this is a front's defense. Whenever a front takes damage, it subtracts this number, its defensive number, from the damage. So if somebody does 4 damage to this front, you would minus 2 from that because of the 2 defense, and it would only take 2 damage. If it did take 2 damage, you would add that many wounds to the front, and we have wound tokens to do that. You can see here in the heart, this is the health of the front. If health ever reaches 0 on a front, it is destroyed. If a front is destroyed, you would take one of your cards here that say seized, flip it over will be the destroyed front, and you'll just flop it right on top of these. So we know, everybody knows that those are destroyed. So that's what reducing a front's health to 0 is. But going back to my example, Okay, something did 4 damage to Hand's Holistic Healing. It has 2 defense. We would subtract that 2 defense from the 4 damage, giving it a total of 2 wounds. And there's where these tokens come in. Now, Tabletop Simulator is pretty handy because you can make these infinite bags, which is what I have here, and the tokens are just inside. So if we want 2 wounds, we would take the 2 wound token, not that, I want one of these little guys. There we go. Just like that, and plop it right on here. You can plop it right on the center, just like that if you like. And then we know that this has taken 2 damage. If the wound tokens ever equal or go above the health of a front, the front is destroyed. So there you go. You got your defense, you got your front's name, the front's number in the series, the front's name, the defense of the front, and the front's health, and then the little picture of the front right there. And I have to stress the artwork may not be final in this, so this is just kind of what we're using for playtesting purposes. It is liable to change. So the next number over here is the control number. Now the control number is what you have to roll above, what a goon has to roll above on a 20-sided dice here to take control of this front. To seize a front, you need to have 4 of your goons stationed here and no enemy goons stationed there. So, and we'll get into that. You'll see how that works as we get into the phases of the game play phase a little bit. All right. For now, just know that one of the actions your goons can do when they're stationed here, if you have 4 of them stationed here, is you can roll this little dice here, and you try to get above the control number. So in this case, a 15 is above the number. And again, it has to be above the number. It can't be equal to the number. It has to be above. So a 15 would do it. If that was the case, I would throw one of my seized cards on top of here to denote that this front has been seized. Now, when a front is seized, it is any goons that are stationed there remain there until the end of their player's restore phase. So we'll get into that as we get into the gameplay. But while they're at the seized place or the destroyed place, if it got destroyed instead of seized, nothing can harm them except other goons stationed with them. So they're it's kind of like in a safe spot, but in the restore phase of that player's turn, all the cards get returned to their hand, and they'll have to replay them in order to bring them out a bit. And then finally on the front's card, so this bottom line down here is the first, let me shrink it down and just zoom in here. This number right here, the 2, with a little hat, like the reputation symbol, this is how much reputation you can earn from this front if you are in control of this front during the reputation phase. So this one will give you 2 reputation if you are in control of the front. And in order to be in control of a front, you have to have the most goons at that front. So that's pretty much it. If you have the most goons, doesn't matter how powerful the goons are, as long as you have the most bodies at the front, you are considered in control of the front. If you are in control of the front, you also have the ability to use its ability. If it has a red background like this one does, that means you have to spend 1 influence. So over here where we keep track of our influence, that's what this little box is here. We gain influence during our influence phase. We start with 10 influence and we gain it during the influence phase. And then we would spend one influence to use this front's ability, and that goes for any front that has like this red background. So this one over here has an ability you can use. This is considered a scoring. These are considered scoring fronts. They don't have an innate ability. They just are considered for scoring. But anything with this red background lets you know that you have to spend 1 influence if you are in control of this to use its ability. So in this case, we got the iconography here. This icon means all friendly goons stationed here remove 3 wounds. And then here's the translation in case the icons are like, huh? I'm hoping that the icons will pop out at you after you play the game long enough. And there's an icon index that will kind of tell you exactly what each icon is. But just in case, I do include the the translation to the right here. So if I'm in control of this front, I can spend 1 influence, and all my enemy goons stationed here may remove 3 wounds if they have them. If they don't have that many wounds, then obviously they can only restore as many wounds tokens as they have. So this is kind of like a healing area. So that's Hand's Holistic Healing. Moving over here to Goon Memorial Hospital, and you'll see the border around it. This means that this is an uncommon card. The black border around means it is a common card. The blue border makes it an uncommon card. And usually uncommon cards are a little more stronger than their weaker counterparts. And they're worth more reputation per turn, as you can see here. So this is Goon Memorial Hospital, 3 defense, 7 health. It has a 13 control, and if you are in control of this during the reputation phase of the game, you will get 4 reputation. All friendly goons stationed here remove 6 wounds. So it's kind of a bigger version of the healing. This is a very healing map. So obviously all the fronts have different abilities and things, or there's kind of scoring mechanisms that you can use. So there's, you know, it's a different game every time, basically, with your fronts. So yeah, that's Goon Memorial Hospital. Our third front in this particular game, in this borough of the city, is the Baker Street Rec Center, and it's worth 3 per turn. And basically, it's worth 3 per turn because it's a 1-star resort, right? Let's hoop it up, boys. 1-star resort just basically means you get a +1 to the base reputation. So as you may have figured out, the common cards give you 2 reputation per turn. The blue cards will give you 4 reputation per turn, and the red cards will give you, I believe it is 5 reputation per turn. I have to double check that. Although this one is, no, it's 7 reputation per turn because it's got 3 stars. But basically, if it has a star on it, that adds 1 to its base. So that's why this is 3. And it's already included. You know, this is just to denote that it's already included. So you don't get 3 + 1 to make 4. This is just 3 reputation if you're in control of this front. And then the Zibbler Casino and Resort over here is a whopping 10 reputation per turn if you manage to stay in control of this front, because it's a 3-star resort. 3-star front, if you will. So those are our 4 fronts in the game. There, like I said, there's a bunch of other abilities. I'll probably do a separate video showing you all of the front abilities and kind of going over them, just for clarification purposes. But for this how to play series, that's what we have. We'll just deal with these 4. We'll just deal with these 4.